the Healing Through Love podcast with Sharlene Lynch and Rose Davidson. Joanna Walden is a transformational specialist, and she discusses how she survived the abuse of herself in episode 11.
Yeah, I love journaling. I guess I do a slightly different, I do automatic writing, which is how I do my channeling and my multidimensional kind of work. You know, I sit and I connect with the energy of my most expansive version of Joanna, not Joanna, the human personality self, but that deeper, true divine essence that I have and all of the energetics that contains. And I write messages that help guide me and bring energy through. And so, and I do journaling as well, but I do a combination of those, and I find it really, really therapeutic and a beautiful way for us to stay connected to ourselves. Actually, it's another beautiful way to connect.
Welcome to Talking with the Experts. This is where we discuss great ideas to take your business to the next level. How do we know these ideas work? Well, it's because we're talking with business owners who are using these ideas. Business owners who have years of experience and expertise. All things business by business owners for business owners. And now, here is your host, Rose Davidson.
Hello and welcome to Healing Through Love podcast. I'm your host, Sharlene Lynch from sharlenelynch.com. Healing Through Love is a social enterprise whose vision is to shift awareness on domestic and family violence within the community and support victims and survivors. Our mission is to provide family and domestic violence survivors with a soft place to land by offering advice and services available to them and their families. We interview experts and survivors who share their personal stories and offer advice to those who have experienced abuse, no matter where they are on the healing journey. As well as the Healing Through Love podcast, we hold annual pamper days here in Adelaide and also Tasmania for survivors of family and domestic violence. We have local businesses come together and pay it forward by providing their services and resources for a day to give the survivors a much-deserved day of indulgence. Think day spa. It's an amazing experience. And today our amazing guest is Joanna Walden. Now, Joanna is a magnificent example of a human being. She is a visionary transformational specialist and a multi-dimensional channeler. We need to know more about this. She's a speaker and an author of her book, Inside Hustle, and we're going to dive in deep to that. Currently, she's residing in her hometown of Auckland, New Zealand, and Joanna quit her old corporate life to start a transformational consulting business and began sharing her knowledge and voice with the world. She's got some special offers for us today and also an opportunity for us to dive in deep to her book. Can we welcome, hello, Joanna. Hi, how are you?
Hi, Sharlene. Thank you for having me again.
It's so wonderful to be here in your proximity and just to, share the experience of being human.
Absolutely.
So, wow, you've been through a lot, and your book really does tell the story of every shade that you went through to get to where you are now. And many of our listeners have had their own challenges in moving forward in life. But, one of the things is, how did you know there was more? How did you know that you could keep going? How did you know that if you lent in, the magic would happen? Where did that knowing come from?
Well, that's a good question, isn't it? But I do believe we all have an inbuilt GPS, actually. We've got an inbuilt sort of radar that's connected to the highest version of us that's actually in the background guiding us often and daily even in our life. And sometimes even when we think we're off track, I think we're actually sometimes on track, because there's certain ways that we have chosen to navigate our experience in this life right now that allow us to expand into our true potential. I don't think any of us would reach our true potential if it was an easy ride. We just wouldn't get there. When we have contraction of many different shapes and forms, we get expansion. And I believe that we all came here on the planet at this time right now, as crazy and twisted and topsy-turvy and quite challenging as it is, because this is when we're meant to be showing up in our full blazing light and magnificence, because when we are able to be that, we are radiating that around to everybody else and allowing them to step into that space as well, and all help each other through this, and the planet also. It's all connected.
You're speaking my language, Joanna. I say regularly on a daily basis that we are here to raise our own frequency. And when we raise our frequency, we raise the frequency of those around us, and a rising tide lifts all ships. So even those that are in resistance to lift our frequency, we are lifting them up by rising the tide. So we're speaking the same language, sister. I love it.
That's right.
So there was a lot that you said there in and around potential, in and around knowing that, you know, it's not necessarily an amazing place and things are happening and we're feeling like crunched in, and how do we live for expansion? But how do we have that level of connection, and how do we keep that on a daily basis? Because I'd love to know.
Well, I tell you what, if you're spending a lot of time in the mind, you're probably not really going to feel that connected. That was probably my biggest learning, and my biggest tool that I use every day is getting into heart-brain coherence. So bringing this brain, very overactive mind, that is no fault of our own, by the way. We've been conditioned into it in this kind of society that we've been all growing up and living through. We're just trained to be in the mind. And I tell you what, that the busy mind keeps us really out of our deepest connection to our true self and that beautiful divine essence that we are. And that is in the heart. So we can do, you know, if you're connecting to the heart every day and you're connecting to your inner world, you don't have to sit there doing 20 minutes of meditation, but, you know, I just love it because, you know, there's really 3 easy steps to heart coherence. You know, all you do is close your eyes, and I like to bring one hand to the center of my chest, but you can also just bring your consciousness there. I like to close my eyes, but you can also do this eyes wide open. You can actually even do it sitting in a meeting in disguise, actually. But I just feel more connected when I go like this and I close down my eyes. I kind of connect in more, you know. And then all you do is slow down your breathing. So taking a nice deep breath in and then slowing it down. That starts to bring our nervous system into a state of calm. So you want to do sort of 3 to 5 breaths like that. You're automatically going to feel calmer. And then the third easy step is that you want to start facilitating feelings that are more expansive. So if you can get to joy or excitement or love, that would be great. Even just acceptance, if you can just accept what is, that also works. And so does gratitude. I mean, I think there's always something that we can be grateful for, even if we're in the most dire of circumstances. And that might just be that, you know, we are here in this moment in a physical body, and that we are sitting on a chair, or we are wherever we're at, and, you know, we are supported by this beautiful planet and earth energies. You know, there's always something to be grateful for. So, but what we're doing is facilitating these sort of a bit more uplifting feelings or raised frequency. And when we do that, we start to bring our brain and heart into what's called a coherent state. So, you know, it's more smoother waves, it's less erratic. And when we do that, it actually harmonizes our whole entire being, right? And when we harmonize our whole entire being, it means our mental body is more balanced, our emotions are more balanced. We're sending this anchored heart energy into all parts of our being, and it just helps us feel more centered and grounded and in alignment. So that helps us really connect with ourselves. I find if I'm not connected to my heart, I start to lose my connection. You know, if I get into the busyness of life, I lose the connection. I have to bring it back. And, you know, you can get into that heart coherent state, you know, numerous times a day, especially in times of stress or, you know, high ups and downs that we might be navigating in times of challenge. All we can do is that really simple tool just does so many things, which is why I love it. And it's very simple and quick. It literally will take 5 to 7 minutes, you know, 5 minutes of just a little bit of breathing and a little bit of sort of facilitating those feelings. And if you can't sort of work with trying to feel those feelings, all you need to do is think about something that makes you smile. That could be a little baby animal, and that will do it. You'll start to change the feelings within you, without sort of trying to, if that felt a little bit too difficult. So easy. Just sit there and breathe for a little bit and think about a little fluffy duckling or something absolutely adorable, and you're going to be getting into heart coherence.
I love it. I love it. Maybe that's why so many people watch animal clips on the social media.
Honestly, yeah.
Love it. Makes you feel good.
It does.
So, wow, we've been in a very powerful, time of movement and shift. We've had COVID, but yes, and now we've got the next level of movement. Can you, for the listeners today, can you dive in deep to tell us, what's been happening for us on the planet in the last couple of months post-COVID?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the COVID thing was still navigating through, and that was, I think everybody recognizes, a real opportunity as we were pointed back into ourselves and, allowing ourselves a little bit more quiet time and space that we wouldn't usually get. So there was, as much as there was challenge and frustration, there was also a lot of advantages to that experience. But the last, few months have been, we are experiencing the frequency of the planet raising and raising. We are experiencing cosmic alignments that are also facilitating a raising of the frequency. So, right back in July, we had a period called the Sirius Gateway, which is aligned with the Sirius star system. And that means a lot of, light is flooding into the planets. Sirius is known as our spiritual sun, and the place of higher wisdom and higher understanding. And then we went right into the Lion's Gate, which is that 8/8 sort of date, but there's a portal that kind of goes from the end of the Sirius gateway. And that was also the beginning of the Galactic New Year, which is a whole new time spiral that sort of starts at the end of July there on the 27th or 26th. And so then we were into the Lion's Gate, and then right at the end of the Lion's Gate, there was an alignment with the star Regulus, which is part of that Leo star system as well. And, it's just that combined with the incredible amounts of space weather. I don't know if any of you have got the space weather app, but it has been going off like crazy, the notifications, because we have had a serious series of solar flares over the last 3 weeks. Big, high intensity solar flares. I've had a really, really profound headache pretty much constantly for the last 3 weeks, and that's not something that I usually get. And you know what, over the years of this kind of thing increasing, I sort of suddenly started noticing that my headaches were aligned with the space weather and the solar flares. So when those really big M class or X class even solar flares are being fired at the planet, more light is coming in, more intensity as well. And so we're really being pressurized and pushed and nudged in all different levels of our being. And that all of this added light coming to the planet is really going to prod and poke any density that we're holding. So if we've got any stuck emotions that we haven't dealt with from, maybe our childhood or teenage years or something, or if we've got some trauma that's sitting there that is just, we haven't been ready to face or to process properly because we needed the right time and space to do that, it may be triggering some of that. We might be feeling just irritable and, a bit frustrated and in ourselves. We might be feeling a little bit despair and even depression, we may be feeling so many different things. So this all can really, instigate us really working through what is really pertinent for us at this time. It's going to trigger whatever we need to deal with for our particular journey that we are going through on a unique and individual basis. And so, of course, if you are worried about anything, please go and see a medical professional. But also know that if you've been feeling really out of sorts, like that could also be why. There can be many, many different reasons. And it also might not just be one reason, but I really want everyone to notice that if you've been feeling a little bit challenged, like I got really ill, I've had a death flu for like 3 weeks and a lot of stuff coming out of my system, old stuff, sweating for 2 weeks straight. It was like the really unheard of. It was kind of a very much an anomaly kind of illness that I haven't experienced for a long, long time. And I was very aware in the moment. I was like, and I could feel the energetics of my body almost rebuilding entirely. So whether you're going through it through illness, whether you're going through it in an emotional breakdown, where you're going through it and getting, having a massive challenge in your job, or getting, maybe let go and having to find a new career, or whatever it is, or a relationship's falling apart, there may be so many different ways that this is all presenting itself. But it's really, really important to know that this too shall pass. We're always in a constant state of motion. So we're always going to be moving through something. So just hold tight and, breathe, and just know that this too shall pass. And also everything is always happening for us and not to us. It's always in alignment with our highest expansion, bringing us even more into alignment and making us sort of confront and let go that which needs to be let go for us to step into our greatness. So it's just, I know, and when in those moments, it's really, really tough, and we can just feel like the world is ending and we don't know what to do. But often those really deep, dark parts of our journey happen before our greatest leap forward. And there is light at the end of the tunnel.
I love it. And it's so true. Not everything that happens is our stuff. So I noticed during my journey, if I've felt something, regardless of what it is, I like, hand on heart, is this mine? First of all, is it mine? Because sometimes it's not ours. It's universal. It's someone else's, someone you love. So the first question I ask, is it mine?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it is mine. Well, is it now or is it in the past? And that just helps me sort of dive in deep to, work through the murkiness and figure it out. But
definitely,
my favorite things is journaling. Like, what's your opinion in and around journaling when we're working through our shifts and our changes and our transformations?
Yeah, I love journaling. I guess I do a slightly different, I do automatic writing, which is how I do my channeling and my multidimensional kind of work. I sit and I connect with the energy of my most expansive version of Joanna, not Joanna, the human personality self, but that deeper, true divine essence that I have, and all of the energetics that contains. And I write messages that help guide me and bring energy through. And I do journaling as well, but I do a combination of those, and I find it really, really therapeutic and a beautiful way for us to stay connected to ourselves. Actually, it's another beautiful way to connect.
I love it. Are you a pen to paper girl, or do you type them?
Well, funnily enough, both, but sometimes it's coming too fast when I'm typing, like when I'm sort of channeling, it comes too fast for me to write with a pen. Whereas if I'm sort of journaling, I'm more inclined to use a pen rather than the typing. But yeah.
It's so true. And so I've actually also taken to voice to text as well. And also just speaking it into a recording. And then
I do that too.
Afterwards. Because sometimes it comes at a speed faster than I can even speak.
Absolutely.
I was like, I don't want to miss anything. This is obviously gold. So let's find a way to capture it. So for listeners, if handwriting's not your thing or typing is not your speed, then
there's always a way
into a recording and then doing voice to text. There's lots of little apps. Otter is my favorite app to use for that, because the transcriptions are very accurate. I love it. And the more it gets used to how you speak, the better and more accurate it actually is. And so I love that one.
Amazing.
So much to unpack there to get us to the other side. I would really, at this point, love to dive in deep to your story, your book, and what got you to a place where you wanted to write the book. And the book clearly is your history and how you've transitioned and transformed. But for our listeners, what's the reasons why they would want to read the book? Like, what aside from your personal journey, what are the outcomes for them?
Well, it's obviously got some of the learnings from my personal journey, but not only that, the whole book is encoded with energy. It had its own energy itself, which was riding through me. It wouldn't go to my timelines or the way I wanted it to be or any of that, which is quite funny. But, juxtaposed in between my very personal, my journey, the story of that is this channeled writing, which has a different vibrational resonance. And actually, a lot of feedback I've received from readers has found them able to, it's almost like they have a healing effect. It has a healing effect on their being reading it. Even though they're reading about my journey, they are simultaneously connecting with their own. And this beautiful automatic channeled writing that's in between the chapters helps recalibrate any energy that's brought up in the process. And I think, there's so many universal parts of all of our stories, and we can always identify and connect with each other through that. So there's an opportunity for healing as you read this book. It's got energy that wants to connect with you. And it also, just for maybe being able to reframe and look at aspects of this reality and life in a new way, that's on offer as well, because it's very much outside of this linear one-dimensional view of this reality, and just, we're just humans on the planet who are here to eat, sleep, do our ablutions and repeat or whatever. But I mean, it's sort of like, I feel like we're so much more than that. And there's definitely the connection of me investigating that in this book. So there's a lot in it. It's also just a really fun travel adventure story and with a mystical bent. I sort of describe it as Bridget Jones meets Eat, Pray, Love on steroids. And it's got a lot of comedy and humor. So even that can be the best medicine sometimes. Reading about someone else's ridiculous comedy of error journeys where they were at their worst. But, I tried to sort of make it into a sort of funny part. But there's some beautiful touching parts as well. So it is it's not just a one-shot pony, kind of like one-trick pony, really, this book. It's got a lot on offer. So, I just, every time I get feedback from a reader saying how much it's helped them on their journey, or they feel like they can stop searching now, it chucks a few of those old spiritual principles and paradigm that we might get trapped in out the window, and it's quite liberating and freeing. So there's a lot going on in it. Yeah.
I love it. And as with all good books, it's available on Amazon, and the link for the book, we'll put that in the description and also the show notes.
Yeah.
Yes. So I want to dive into the deep, the dark night of the soul. And as a domestic violence survivor myself, and family violence, is that, when you're in the thick of all of that, it's really hard to see. It's hard to see the flip side, to be honest. It's hard to see the end of it. It's hard to actually see, we question why me and why this situation. And, it clearly wasn't the first time. So how come I'm repeating these patterns?
Right.
So how do we tell the difference between a whole dark night of the soul and us just being human and repeating our patterns?
Well, I think they're not so different, really, either of those things. I mean, to me, repeating those patterns over and over again kind of equates to a dark night of the soul. You end up in a dark night of the soul with that. And the thing is, we all come in and we have the experience of being conditioned into various ways of being in our first 7 years of our life, which then become the patterns that we start continuing to live out and every 7-year cycle type thing. So what we're bringing into our experience and the way that we're doing that is to shift and free ourselves from these patterns. And so the dark night of the soul is very purposeful in that. It's really more of the dark night of the human more than the dark night of the soul. I mean, the soul always knows what it's doing. We're the human ones who judge it when we're in the crap, we're really in the deep shit. And so I think it's just one of those things where it is one of those really the awful troughs that we go through, and we each have our own way of moving through that, or needing to stay in it for longer, or being able to, or having to repeat it over and over. But I don't think anything is not purposeful. We have to sort of start to see the higher perspective, or be willing to do something different, to think a different way, or choose a new way of being in those moments to hold ourselves through it, because otherwise we will get more of the same. It has to start with us. The only thing we can really change is ourselves. And in those moments where we're in the deepest of the dark and maybe stuck in those old patterns, we just maybe one tiny little thing that we can change, one little thought that we could change a day is going to help us become different or break out of that cycle or move on from what we are currently experiencing.
I love it. I love that you were talking about Saturn returns, and how do we, or what would you suggest we do to break those patterns? How do we bring that level of awareness to the patterns so that we can shift through them and get out the other side? So what would you, as pattern interrupts, what's your favorite pattern interrupts?
That's a good question, actually. I mean, I think bringing awareness to the pattern is where it starts. I mean, it doesn't have to be this long and involved way to break a pattern. We're sort of like conditioned into thinking like, oh, it's going to be really hard, break this pattern. But all it takes is one simple shift in awareness. And if you understand the pattern and you just layer beneath it to what it's really showing you, like everything is metaphorical. It's not going to be just the direct definition of what you're experiencing, so it's about looking underneath those layers with a new lens to be like, okay, this is playing out here. This played out with my dad. It played out with my boss. It played out in my relationship with my husband. Okay, so what's the theme here, and how do we go underneath it to work out what's really going on that's just manifesting in all these different ways? Because once we just can trigger a new level of awareness, when we start to just ask different questions about it, can be as easy as that, and the awareness might drop in. That's all you need to, you're shifted in that moment. It's different. So it doesn't need to be hard. And I love the tool of questioning, actually. That really starts the flow of energy. If you don't know what you're doing, just ask questions about what is going on, and you will actually energetically receive the answers in some way, shape, or form to help guide you and to help you drop in that level of awareness that you're looking for to shift.
I love it. One of my favorite questions I ask every day is, what's that about? So just to give that space between thought and action, and then just to let the information drop in. And it's never really about what I think it's about. It's always about something else. And that just goes to the mystery of life, the universe, and everything. So Joanna, what's next for you? You've written a book, you're an author. What's next for you?
Well, I'm actually working on a second book, which is very different to the first book. So that's sort of, I'm just like working with that at the moment. It's sort of, I've sort of finished drafting it, and I'm going through and having a little pass over it to see what it's about. It's an entirely channeled book, so it's very different to the other book. So I'm working on that. I'm, working on just expanding my business. I've been building my foundations and just expanding into, to serve more people in a different way. And to be honest, like my experience of the last few months has meant that I feel I've been downloading so much more energy. I'm now going into a period of integration so that I can just allow whatever is the next iteration of my work and my level of service to come through for me, So I'm focusing on integrating and being really present with myself at the moment, and not overloading myself with lots of new projects, actually. And I'm just continuing my energy upgrade journeys that I'm doing in my one-to-one client work, and continuing that for the remainder of the year. And I'd love to get the Inside Hustle made into a movie at some point. So I'm sort of like wanting to kind of like write the screenplay of that in the background as well, to be honest.
Oh, who's going to play you in the movie?
Well, everybody asks me that. I'm like, I'm so out of touch. I don't even know who the good actors are these days. I'm like, I'm shocking.
It's a favorite question podcasters ask. It's on our top 30 questions to ask as a pop.
I know. I just still don't have an answer for it. It's quite hilarious, but I mean, I don't even know who would play me, really.
I love it. Oh, there's so much happening. And you did hit the nail on the head. And this is for our listeners. We busy ourselves listening to podcasts like this one, and watching webinars, absorbing things, reading papers, reading and absorbing. But what do we do about implementation? So my question to you listeners today would be, take something that you've heard today and see what you can do about implementing it, because we've given you lots of juicy things, from journaling to asking yourself questions to heart coherence and everything else in and around that. don't just make this another thing you listen to. It's about implementation. That's going to be the difference between where you are now and where you're going to end up.
And we all have our own answers within us, and all of the things that we've been talking about today help us access that. And looking outside of yourself is just really not really going to cut it. It has to be coming from inside. Everyone's got their own answers and unique solutions for them, actually almost like locked inside them. And you just have to start delving in and go deep to be able to, get in touch with all of that. And then you're going to really start to quantum leap in your reality and have a more beautiful experience of life in general. So
true, Joanne. Who would have known that the answer is simply being you?
Yeah.
Because of all of the stories we tell ourselves about how that's just not going to cut it.
Totally.
When we've full circled and come back,
mm-hmm.
being fully you is the answer to being in your power, to being able to serve, to be authentic. It's all about being you. It makes
it is.
True, Joanna. Now, you've got a special deal for our listeners today, I understand. Can you tell us a little bit about your special one-on-one session that you're offering?
Yeah, I'm offering a 30-minute free consult with me. And that's just to, get in touch with you and see where you're at and, offer any, initial sort of thoughts and guidance that may help you, and just talk about the work I do and how it might be of benefit to you. I do actually a lot of different things, many of which we haven't touched on this show. So it's, there's a lot to explore, and I've been having some really, really profound and deeply fulfilling and amazing client work and results happening. So I just love talking and connecting with people as well. So it's always nice to hear from new people who are interested in work like this. So you're more than welcome to sign up for a free 30-minute consult with me.
I love it. And I'm booking mine in as soon as the show finishes. So I'm looking forward to spending quality time with you. Wow, we've learned a lot today about where you've been, Joanna, and how that's transcribed and transformed to the next level, and all of your juicy information to help us raise our frequency and get to the next level. So do have a look at her book. It's on Amazon. We'll put the link up so you can have a dive into that, The Inside Hustle, and also book your private time, your 30 minutes with Joanna, and just see what's possible for your life moving forward and how you can transform and transcend and move to the next level. It's been a glorious 30 minutes. Doesn't feel like 30 minutes, though, does it?
Gosh, it whips by. I love chatting with you, Sharlene. It's always fun.
It's so good. It's so good. Like, we literally could talk for hours.
I'm pretty sure we could be here all day.
We're good. But that's all we have time for today. Thank you so much for listening to Healing Through Love podcast. We look forward to being of service with you moving forward. Bye for now.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Healing Through Love. You can get further resources, see the show notes, or simply reach out to us via our website at htlaustralia.org. Thanks so much for joining us, and we look forward to your company next time on the Healing Through Love podcast.